Good morning, everyone. Appreciate y'all taking the time to join us. Uh, Obviously, I'm a cotton grower, and I live in Leary, Georgia, and I am, as Bill said, the current chairman of the Cotton Board, and I'm very honored to be the chairman of our Cotton Board, your Cotton Board. I'm looking forward to today's program, talking about our 5-year economic evaluation of the Cotton Research and Promotion Program. I am really glad that the forefathers thought about this and came up with this, because I don't know where we would be if we didn't have Cotton Research and Promotion Program. Ultimately, Congress passed the Cotton Research and Promotion Act in 1966, which created the Cotton Board and a funding mechanism, and we call it nowadays a checkoff program for research and consumer promotion for cotton. And that was for growers at that time. In 1990, the act was amended. Importers of cotton were brought into the program. Overall revenue has more than doubled since the importers came in 1990. And what the Cotton Board does is we collect the assessments from growers and importers, and then we use those collections to fund Cotton Incorporated. Cotton Incorporated uses these resources and implements a Cotton Research and Promotion Program, from ag research to consumer advertising. Cotton Incorporated is working to increase the demand for and profitability of your cotton and your cotton imports on many fronts. You know about the big things Cotton Incorporated has done, from permanent press, wrinkle-free cotton shirts, and everybody knows the seal of cotton. And we've all seen the Fabric of Our Lives commercials from years ago. Now, if you have sat in on any of the Cotton and Coffee sessions over the past year, you've heard an overview of most of these areas of influence. And the Cotton Incorporated team just does an outstanding job of keeping cotton on the forefront so that consumers know everything they need to know about cotton, how comfortable it is. But as stakeholders, you and I who fund this program, we need to know, is it worth it? Is a program actually doing anything for me? One way we measure the effectiveness of the program is by conducting a third-party evaluation of the program every 5 years, as required by the 1996 Farm Bill. This report represents a quantitative analysis conducted by independent economists. This year's analysis was conducted by Dr. Oral Capps Jr. and Dr. Gary Williams, professors of Ag Economics at Texas A&M. They used Texas Tech's global fiber model as well, and were assisted by Dr. Darren Hudson of Texas Tech. To put this current program in context, we approved an $80 million budget from 2021, and we're working on an $82 million program budget for 2022. The budget can be broadly categorized as 38% consumer marketing, 20% global supply chain marketing, 17% for textile research and development, 18% for agricultural research, and 7% for administrative costs. Now, when you look at that, if you're a producer, probably makes you worry we don't spend enough on ag research. Well, you got to think about this in context, what it costs for marketing, advertising. And that's probably the best dollar that can be spent, because we want cotton in front of the consumers that buy our product. Believe me, we get our money's worth out of ag research and consumer marketing, out of all of them. I would hate to know where we would be without Cotton Incorporated. Now, before I turn it back over to Bill, I want to reiterate this program is funded by you and me, cotton producers and importers. It's your program. It's our program. So in my opinion, it's very important for us to know not only how your money's being spent, but where it's being spent, and to understand what kind of return you and I are getting on our investment. With that being said, I'm gonna just turn it over to Bill. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Jimmy. I appreciate that. And thanks everyone for taking the time out this morning and joining us. Just the host has now spotlighted my video. That's really good news. Going on, let's get started. I'm just going to jump right in. It is a priority mission of the Cotton Board to provide transparency to the stakeholders of this program so that everyone who pays into it has easy access to important information about program activities, program budgets, and program expenditures. We try to go beyond making information available to stakeholders. We proactively communicate to you, the stakeholders, conducting outreach to anyone who pays into the program or has a stake in what the program does. Finally, we work to assess the results of the research and promotion program. We work to develop metrics that stakeholders can use to evaluate whether the program is effective. Now, with respect to transparency, I hope that those on this call are aware that the Cotton Board has worked over the past couple of years to expand online access to important documents and information about the program. The stakeholder transparency page of our website contains a lot of helpful information for stakeholders. Annual reports developed by the Cotton Board and by Cotton Incorporated are posted there. There's Cotton Board budget information, Cotton Incorporated important financial information, Cotton Incorporated activity updates. Cotton Incorporated develops a biannual activity update that really goes through just about everything they do, and they post that, and we make that available on our website. The membership of the Cotton Board is listed there. The major governing documents of this program, such as the Research and Promotion Act of '66, the Act and the Order. We also have the last 2 economic effectiveness studies published in full, and they're available online at that tab. Of course, our outreach efforts, our efforts to ensure that all stakeholders are aware of what this program does, doesn't end with documents on our website. The Cotton Board regional communications managers meet as often as they can with producers, either at GIN meetings or at regional cotton meetings. Cotton Board staff and Cotton Incorporated staff routinely present at regional cotton meetings with respect to specific aspects of the program. About 200 producers each year go to Cary, North Carolina and tour the headquarters of Cotton Incorporated in the cotton research facility there. And if Monty's on the call, so I have to ask, if anybody on this call hasn't taken the tour, Monty or any of the other research regional communication managers will sign you up. Importers from across the United States normally visit cotton farms during harvest, usually in the Memphis area. And as Jimmy alluded to, the Cotton and Coffee series, it may have been born out of the pandemic, but it has given us another means to communicate directly with stakeholders about the program. And we are just so happy that all of you take the time out of your mornings to learn about everything that the program is doing. The pandemic was also part of the inspiration for the RCMs to organize webinars devoted exclusively to state support research programs, providing another avenue to ensure cotton producers know how their money is being spent. Our communication staff also utilize social media, advertising, and public relations in their outreach efforts. And with respect to metrics to evaluate results, the Cotton Incorporated marketing divisions track the impact of advertising campaigns of every type, keeping a close eye on consumer reactions, perceptions, and attitudes toward cotton and cotton products. Cotton Incorporated's corporate strategy team routinely conducts measurements of the market situation and conducts its own internal economic analysis of supply, demand, markets, and other factors affecting cotton in the marketplace. The Cotton Board conducts this independent econometric evaluation using third-party economists to look at the economic impacts of the program. Now, this is a high-level econometric evaluation, and each report is peer-reviewed and subject to USDA review, and approval. As Jimmy indicated, this economic analysis is conducted every 5 years. The analysts normally look at impacts over the life of the program and over the most recent 5-year period. The results of this analysis are derived using an econometric simulation model of U.S. and foreign fiber markets, referred to, as Jimmy said, as the global fiber model, which is maintained at Texas Tech. That model is modified to account for the programmatic activities of Cotton Incorporated. This model has been used before in our previous econometric reports, but it is constantly being improved, updated, and expanded. And I'm going to talk about some of those improvements and refinements as we look at some of the past studies. So first, what is the, quote, the life of the program? The Research and Promotion Program has been in place since 1967, 68. This chart shows the growth of the program over the past 53 years. Revenue levels jumped significantly after 1990 when the assessment, number one, was made mandatory, and number two, the cotton content of imported products was made subject to the assessment, bringing importers into the program. The jump in 1992 is significant. It led to about 10 years of a roughly $60 million program. But since 2006, we fluctuated between $70 and $80 million annually, largely dependent on U.S. acreage levels, U.S. production and acreage levels. But for the purposes of the economic analysis conducted by Dr. Capps and Williams, data prior to 1986 is not included in the, quote, life of the program analysis. The data sets available before 1986 are simply not detailed or consistent enough for the purposes of this type of report. Also, it's important to consider that while the budget in actual dollars has increased fairly steadily since 1991, the impact of inflation tends to reduce the buying power of those dollars. For example, the $60 million budget in 1996 had significantly more buying power than our current $82 million budget. Now, this final chart, or this chart, I think I got one more, shows the period covered by each of the most recent 5-year economic analyses that have been conducted. The most recent analysis looks both, again, at the life of the program since '86, as well as the most recent 5-year period, 2015 to 2019. And I think it's very important to an analysis of program impacts to consider the change in shares of Cotton Incorporated expenditures over time. We've got the consumer marketing and the global marketing budgets combined in this slide. But those two areas, all downstream advertising, whether it's to consumers or whether it's business to business, has decreased as a share of Cotton Incorporated expenditures from about 70% in the late 1980s to 60% today. Meanwhile, agricultural research as a percent of overall expenditures has increased from about 4% in the 80s to around 15 to 16% in the most recent 5 years. Past economic reports have indicated that increasing agricultural research tends to enhance returns directly to producers, whereas expenditures in the marketing and product research areas creates benefits for both producers and the downstream users of cotton. Now, I'm going to be spending some time today discussing those prior economic reports because the formal reviews of our most recent economic analysis have not been completed. That review involves 3 PhD agricultural economists around the country that are looking at this report, as well as the Agricultural Marketing Service at USDA. While we all wanted and planned to have this report final and fully reviewed in time for this presentation, the final reviews simply have not been concluded. So I'm going to go over some prior year's results and outline what we're looking for in the upcoming analysis. I'm going to drink some coffee. Okay, Stacey. Some of the Cotton Incorporated's activity areas are more difficult to quantify. For example, in some areas like consumer promotion expenditures, the economic impacts of the expenditures can occur within 1 or 2 years, and that area has been the primary focus of every analysis to this point. However, in areas such as agricultural research, the economic impacts may only begin to be measurable after even 10 to 12 years. In other words, there is a considerable lag between the agricultural research project and actual measurable economic changes for cotton producers. While the last several economic evaluations have taken ag research expenditures into consideration, this area continues to be refined and improved with each successive analysis. Looking at 2006, going back to 2006, the major impacts that were put forward in that study include: they found a positive impact on U.S. mill use, production, and domestic consumption, higher annual net revenue at the farm level of about $760 million per year, increase in the U.S. price, about 8 cents, and the world price of cotton, and very positive benefit to cost ratios. In other words, for every dollar that was put in by a producer into the program, the 2006 report said that probably generated about $7.6 in return to producers, $10 to the government, and almost $20 for importers. Now I'm going to talk about this government and producer split just a little bit later on. Moving to 2011, again, some of the same positive impacts were found by the analysis. A positive impact from the program on U.S. mill use, production, and domestic consumption. Higher annual net revenue at the farm level of almost $400 million per year. An increase in U.S. prices, around 5 cents, and world prices of cotton. And again, positive benefit to cost ratios, 8.8 at the farm level, and again, almost 15 for the importers who are participating in the program. And finally, going on to 2016, again, some of the same major impacts, positive impacts on U.S. mill use, production, and domestic consumption, higher annual net revenue at the farm level of $340 million a year, increase in U.S. prices, again, around 5 cents, and the world price. And once again, positive benefit to cost ratios, this time about 7 to 1 at the farm level, which is producer and government, and then again, about 14 for importers. Now, there are some constants throughout all of these analyses, and we expect those constants to be reflected in the most recent one that's being conducted. Number one, the program has worldwide impacts. It not only affects cotton consumption, prices, demand, production in the United States, but it affects that around the world. Number two, the increase in domestic consumption of U.S. mill use that's attributed to the program also tends to lower U.S. exports, and that shows up in these results. And that, of course, just makes sense. If you drive a higher U.S. mill use than would otherwise be the case without the program, then you pull some bales that might go into exports into the U.S. Product chain. As I mentioned a minute ago, so far every single analysis shows that our program increases both world and U.S. cotton prices. And going back to this enhanced farm level revenue that I mentioned earlier, that's divided normally between producers and reduced farm program costs. So the way to think about that is the farm programs that we have out there provide a floor a price floor under cotton in many years. They provide some level of revenue protection in many years. So if the positive price impacts of the program operate underneath that floor provided by the government, then any upward movement goes to the benefit of the government in the form of reduced prices, or reduced costs, I should say. But if that price levels are above that government floor, then driving up prices goes directly to the benefit of the producer. And that's consistent with the actual Research and Production Act itself, which says that the program has responsibility for increasing demand and profits for the U.S. cotton industry and for reducing government costs associated with the commodity program. So that's consistent with what our mission is. Next, we see an evolving ability in each of these analyses to appropriately consider the impacts of agriculture research. You know, I mentioned they've been trying to do it since 2006, and every 5-year cycle, it just seems to get a little bit better, and they seem to get a little bit more done. But I talked about the reason it's difficult. And unfortunately, prior to this particular one, we've never had any cottonseed specific analysis incorporated in any of these research reports. Now, the 2021 analysis, again, is going to attempt to evaluate some of the same areas, expenditures focused on marketing and consumer promotion, expenditures in the area of ag research, but we're also going to include expenditures in cotton research and marketing, cottonseed research and marketing for the first time. And we're very glad that we're covering that this time. Okay, going back to an earlier part of my discussion, this is an econometric type of analysis. The economists look at the economic interactions between supply and demand, price and production that actually took place during the period of the analysis. Then they remove the expenditures and activities of Cotton Incorporated and run the simulation, comparing supply, demand, price, production, and other factors, both with and without the research and promotion program or Cotton Incorporated's activities. This type of counterfactual analysis helps quantify the impacts of the program. You look at the world with the program, and then you try to look at what the world would be if the program hadn't been there. And if anyone on this call has any further detailed questions about econometric modeling, I'm going to refer you to Barry Worsham. I hope he's on the call. He said he would be. And by the way, Barry's helped me a lot with this presentation over the past 2 weekends. And so I appreciate that. So the upcoming report attempts to answer 4 main questions. Number 1, has the Cotton Research and Promotion Program expanded demand and value for cotton and U.S. upland cotton? Number 2, are stakeholders, are you better off as a result of the program? Has the program reduced the dependence of producers on U.S. government support programs? And finally, what have been the effects of program expenditures for agriculture research and cottonseed demand? So what are we looking for? What was the Cotton Board looking for? What should you be looking for? We're going to be, of course, looking for signs that the activities of Cotton Incorporated, the research and promotion program, is succeeding in its mission to enhance demand and profitability of upland cotton for producers and importers. So we hope to find results that indicate increased demand for fiber and fiber products, increased U.S. world and prices for upland cotton, stronger revenue for producers and importers, enhanced yields and profits, positive rate of return on the dollars invested, that BCR I mentioned earlier, strong impacts caused by ag research programs, and hopefully we will find that the program has increased the demand and value of cottonseed. As I've indicated, the past 3 studies have shown strong positive impacts from the Cotton Research and Promotion Program. We're optimistic that the most recent analysis will also show positive results. But the takeaway from today, other than the fact that we've created a cliffhanger episode of Cotton and Coffee, is that the program itself is strongly committed to ensuring benefits to our stakeholders. We're strongly committed to being innovative and responsive to stakeholder needs and concerns. It's important, whether these analyses are strongly positive or negative, that we continue to evaluate what we are doing on your behalf so that we are aware of what works and can change what does not work. Finally, while an economic analysis is an excellent measurement of overall program impacts, no single analysis can be expected to evaluate everything that Cotton Incorporated does for this industry. From ensuring the cotton industry has been able to be responsive to a growing call for sustainability from our downstream customers, to important seminars designed to better equip the overall industry to respond to forced labor concerns in the cotton supply chain, to a quick ramp up of research projects designed to address serious diseases like Fusarium wilt race 4. Cotton Incorporated is working across a multitude of fronts to strengthen the cotton industry. And we're very proud of the program and what it does and the people that do that work for you. So Stacy, you can get rid of that screen and we can open the floor for questions.